Nearer, my God, to thee. Nearer to thee.
Hello and welcome to What We Watched with Scott and Toby. We're talking Midnight Mass, episode 7, Revelations. We're going to be talking some pretty heavy spoilers, but if that's okay with you, continue on, and I'll see you on the other side.
So, here we are. Final.
Midnight Mass, I forgot what we were doing here for.
Yeah, Midnight Mass, the last episode, the finale.
Has it got a name, this last
been
episode?
building to this. What was the last episode called? Revelations?
Okay, that makes sense.
Was it called that?
I feel like 3 episodes have been called that.
Maybe. I should check, really. I didn't even think about this because, see, I didn't take notes in this episode. Every episode up until this point, I've taken notes.
An episode stop trying on.
Yeah, but I just wanted to enjoy the episode rather than be constantly looking down at a piece of paper going scribble, 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 scribble. Take note. And see, that's kind of what I did. So I'm hoping that you've come with notes because I know that you've done a bit of research and you went back over it and watched it again, if I believe I'm right.
Yeah, I sort of binge watched from Ep 1 to the end.
Start to finish?
Mm-hmm. Not in one go, but over two. I think over a day. I think I did it in a day.
Nice. Yeah, book 7, Revelation.
Nice. For some reason, it feels like we've had Revelations as a name already, but I guess that's just the Bible verse, right? Genesis, Revelation.
In order, book 1, Genesis, Psalms, Proverbs, Lamentations, Gospel, Acts of the Apostle, and Revelations.
Nice. Toby, before we go, Toby. Hey, Toby. Hey.
I know where this is going.
we couple episodes in. I think episode 2.
Well, let's just moving on.
Someone's dog died.
It's the finer details, the meticulous eye that a director brings to a scene that really makes and sells a hook and an idea. Unfortunately, as a viewer, I don't have that meticulous eye. And I'm going to blame everything else but my eyes. It was the grading. It was the whistle-stop tour. It was the very quick whoosh out of frame and in the frame.
What are we referring to?
So, listeners, I have to own up and say that I got this completely wrong. And it was clear from the episode that it happened in that Bev did indeed poison the dog.
She did.
Because Scott went back and...
well, when it came up, because it's come up in the podcast every episode since.
Every episode.
But you text me, I knew I should have gone back to check. And that's when I was like, what? I thought you did. I thought that's why it was such a confusion, because you were so sure it happened that you'd gone back to check.
Well, during the episode I did, I rewound it because I remember seeing the dress flit in and then the wide shot. And I was like, well, they're not the same dress. Clearly.
Not that clearly.
They are.
Like the opposite of
Not
clearly.
I am utterly and completely baffled at how I didn't pick up on the fact that they were the same dress. Because
was there some mulled wine involved? Maybe
no mulled wine. Only today the mulled wine has been involved. So I apologise to our esteemed listeners. It's my fault, and it will never happen again.
Well, that's big words. Don't say never again.
Okay.
I
will check my facts. Let's put it that way. I will do my research.
Good to hear on the last episode. No, it's all good.
I was supremely shocked to find out that Bev had killed the dog and that he'd answered that in that episode.
I think more importantly, I thought it was just quite obvious anyway. Like she was just the sinister.
It was obvious.
Is that why you thought it wasn't?
Myself that the dress was different, then I would have gone Bev killed the dog. It's obvious Bev killed the dog. That's what
you were so convinced he was going to subvert expectations, as it were. And you're like, well, if we think it's her, I think, like I've said before several times, when I was into Lost and it was like season 4 or 5, and it's like by that stage, if you're still watching, you're quite a big fan, so you're following all the threads. Every time something happened, I'm like, no, I don't think that happened.
Yeah,
I think they're twisting me. It's like, no, he just ate a burger. Just let him. He's not eating a burger. Like, yeah.
Bev did kill the dog,
Mm-hmm.
and I am mildly disappointed by that.
You're gonna have to tell me if I'm treading old ground,
Carry on.
because I've watched the whole season. I kind of made random notes.
Yeah,
like
go for it.
Online, I didn't pick up on this, but there's a lot of discussion. Did Bev poison Pruitt back when Pruitt's tummy was rumbling and he threw up all the blood?
I totally and firmly believe that she did.
Why? Because at that stage, she's just kind of kissing his butt.
Because the episode before, she clocks the picture and makes the connection.
Mm-hmm. But why did you try and
prove
kill him?
To prove her? Well, because I don't know why necessarily, without grasping ideas from the thin air that is my mind. You know, maybe she just wants to prove that there's something dark going on. Maybe she wants to end what she perceives to be evil. I without going back where you have the text that exists after the point where she realizes the connection, is that enough to persuade her through that episode? Because it's at the end where he comes in and dies, isn't it, from the poisoning? Does he say things to her preceding the poisoning that makes her think, if he is an angel and he has been touched by God and he has been given this rebirthing, I need to test this. Let's poison him. But I during that episode, at the end of that episode, when Pruitt went down having been poisoned, I fully believed that it was Bev that poisoned him. Because
he does sort of foam up like the dog did.
Yeah, it's exactly the same.
Which makes her quite psychopathic. Like this, personally,
like the mother says
I don't know if I believe it or not. I guess I choose not to, and I think I prefer it with her not poisoning him, because I feel like it's a wink. The fact that they didn't explicitly say it leaves it like a wink, you know, like very much like the end of this episode with the survival or not of the Vampire King. It's like there's a little hint, but if we don't say it, it's better. Because I think if at that stage Bev is flat out poisoning people, I don't know, it just strips her journey away and her descent into madness. It's like when we talked about The Shining, and then the reveal was like, oh no, he was mental from the beginning. He just didn't know it, and we didn't know it. I sort of prefer her gentle slip into power-hungry snobbery.
See, I don't believe that trip ever really happened. I think one of our earlier podcasts, we talk about Stephen King's, he likes to create these religious zealots. Is that the right word?
I guess so, yeah.
These, like the megalomaniacs, basically, that fully believe that, and to the point where they're just crazy with it. And I think she is that. But I think the way that Mike Flanagan portrays her is subtle enough that it doesn't become overbearing, unlike the equivalents in The Mist and The Stand and other places where you get this sort of megalomaniac religious,
just too over the just edging over the top,
overbearing nutter, where she's very subtle. She fully believes in everything that she believes in, and will believe it to the ends of the earth, which is proven in this episode.
Kinda
right up until the end, which was really, really good. I loved that bit.
I mean, she was great value for money, Bev. I think her and Pruitt were just very mesmerizing to watch. I think those two single-handedly kind of saved, double-handedly, or whatever the term would be, saved the show for me. But those two characters in lesser hands or done any other way,
they carried their roles exceptionally well, and they were pivots, massively pivotal to the whole series. Yeah, they were the very opposite of what Riley was, which was a very dour, for a hero character, which is what he's portrayed as in all the marketing and everything. He was very downbeat, dour, and then you had these two who were very upbeat and positive, and
I guess I'm going to get it into
it to bring to the island. And
like what, I really don't know what to make of Riley. Like what why do you think that was like, let's focus on this guy above everyone else for so long? Like there was more tragedy in this. The drunk guy Joe, who was drunk and shot a teenager and paralyzed her, and that was a pretty powerful scene, and it had less time to breathe. And yeah, he was in it a fair bit, and we saw the
did it need it, though?
his
Did it
life.
need it? I think the fact that we wrote Riley was our journey through the story up to the last 2 episodes.
I mean, in a vehicular sense, it's that
He's a good-looking character.
Yeah,
he's a good-looking male, so we need a good-looking male to lead us through the narrative, definitely.
But I was going to say, like, he's sort of the outsider, even though he's been there, he's been away. So I guess it's that vehicular, the Luke Skywalker, as it were, of like, he's us. He's the farm boy, kinda, to an extent.
Yeah, I believe that his story, he came with enough baggage for us to stick with him and think it was a ruse. We were led down this path with this guy who is, we believe, to be the hero, and is going to go through this massive journey of change, and he's had this dark past, and he's going to go through this journey, and he's going to rise up and change everything. And that's the reason why he existed, was to give us this red herring and enable the shock ending of episode 5, where he's in the canoe and sets himself on fire. And in essence, he gets his journey. He says a lot.
It's just more emotional and mental.
Religion. Yeah, he accepts his part in what was a tragic accident in the killing of that woman. That was his fault. He was drunk at the wheel, and he shouldn't have been. And he shouldn't be absolved from blame, and religion shouldn't give him a way out. And the fact that everything he was being told around him said that he should, and he is, and mistakes happen and things like that. He didn't want to accept that absolution and chose to go up in flames with it, I guess.
I feel like him and Aaron flipped roles throughout this. Yeah. Like, I noticed back in episode 1, Riley has a vision of the church covered in blood. Does that make him like an instrument of God? If Riley at the beginning, before anything's kicked off, sees that the church covered in blood, does that make him an instrument of God? Like, because a lot of his like lost conversations were, he can't believe that God has a plan for everyone because of all the sadness that has happened. But he does have a vision of the future. And Aaron, when Aaron dies, they basically, when they had that conversation on the sofa about what do you think death is, they each experienced each other's death, idea of what was going to happen. He found peace and serenity, and kind of went to heaven with that girl. Yeah. And Aaron sort of saw the universe and her part in it, and the insignificance of mankind, and that with a blink in the eye. And what did she go on to say? Like,
I missed that. I totally missed that. I knew that what she was reciting when she was passing away during this episode was not her vision of death. But I'd forgotten what Riley's one. And so it was Riley's speech on the sofa that she was reciting.
I mean, more or less, she went even grander with it. Because he was just, like, your brain is going to stop functioning, so you kick in like sort of the same pheromones you have when you dream. And so it's like a flood of every memory. But in her case, she almost goes bigger with it, and it's like the memory of everything ever.
That's kind of where I stand on the whole what happens after you pass or die and all of that sort of thing. Maybe that's for another cast, but
I hope I go out taking vampires with me. Because she's the wing clipper, huh? She had that, what did her mum say to her?
What a move that was, wasn't it? Oh, the subtlety in what she was doing there. Yeah, that was a great...
kind of foreshadowed that, right? When she was on the sofa with her mum, Riley, she said she had a bird when she was young, and her mum said, like, hey, mama, when did you have your wings clipped? Like when you were born. And here she is still doing it. Ugh. Come on, Aaron.
Very, very clever. That was a genius move, and it was a very, again, like you say, foreshadowing. Those having, I envy you having watched it back from beginning to end now. You're picking up on these little things. That's a really nice little throwback to some of the earlier episodes.
It was like powerful visuals. No, they sort of played it out like a sort of sex rape scene, right? Just the way it was positioned, like the movement. She sort of caressed him to sort of steer him, to keep him focused while she could stab away at the wings. And I guess they did a slight foreshadowing that when he's feeding, he's in like a feeding haze.
Frenzy, yes.
Because the kids were sort of, I don't know,
Trance.
shooting him in the head.
Yeah.
And he was just
basically.
like, get out of here. Get out of here, you
Stop
wacky
it.
Scooby-Doo kids.
Yeah.
Did you like this episode? Was this a good
Yeah,
finale for you?
I did it. I did enjoy this episode. I thought it was again, it came back to being quite slow. There was lots of the way that we were taken through the episode was through the sort of meanderings of people that weren't affected as much by the frenzies. You had the father and the mother of Riley. We spent a bit of time with them, and I liked the way that their relationship continued as it was basically throughout the whole. They didn't change, and I think that was the bottom line, and the underlying message was that if your moral compass is solid, then anything that happens to you shouldn't change it. Even, you know, that there was a lot of the island were very subjectable to this feeding of need of blood and want for blood, and they just caved into it so easily. And again, shown in the church in the episode before, everybody, a lot of the island just quickly went for it. This greed, this want to last forever, and this belief, and the handful of people that survived or were changed reluctantly continued to hold that stance and not give in to the dark side, as it were, if you want to coin a phrase from another franchise. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it gets slightly messy why some of them had control throughout. This is where I think just some energy in the early episodes just to expand on some of the stuff, because I guess that's what a feeding frenzy is. It only takes one to go blood mental when everyone else is like, well, if they're doing it, I'm doing it. But, you know, Pruitt, how long was Pruitt walking around? And it, you know, he held off the blood frenzy for a long time. I guess that's what a frenzy is. This was, I don't know, but this is probably my favorite episode, I guess. Just it had the right amount of that smart, thought out dialogue. With this stuff happening with some visuals. Like it had some punch in it.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's parallels and obvious parallels between addiction and addiction to religion, and the fine line between the two. No, well, they're just, you know, addiction to drugs, addiction to gambling, addiction to anything, and religion, and being addicted to religion in essence, and the drug that is religion, the compulsion, the constant forgiveness for anything that you've done wrong. You know, but when you can have a drug, take a drug, and then feel guilty after you've taken that drug, but the second you have that drug again, you've resolved of all blame. You don't feel the guilt until after it's worn off again. And I think that was a large part of what it was talking about, especially with Riley and his addiction to alcohol, and how he shouldn't feel the guilt. You know, he's paid his dues. He shouldn't feel the guilt for what he'd done. He has accepted the blame, and God has washed his sins away.
But you feel like that's what his arc was? I'm not quite convinced that's where they were going with the Riley thing. You know what I mean?
Where do you think they were going?
But it was just like how, like, there is a certain sector for sure about absolution, but the whole point with Riley is it didn't matter. Like, it's what's in your heart is that matters. Like,
exactly,
if there's a God and he knows
compass.
What you're guilty for, what does any of it mean, right? Like, you know, if I'm truly sorry I did something, and there's a God, if I've told a priest or I've told anyone, or I pretend that I'm not sorry for it, but I am, what does any absolution mean? Which is almost, I guess, the reverse of your point of like, or not the reverse, but a pinnacle point of like, okay, I did something wrong and I should feel bad. I'll get absolved, still go to heaven, but I'll probably do it again. I get absolved of that. But I think there was too much of that in the show as a whole, I guess. It was odd watching back, when you watch back on his earlier shows, Haunting House Hill and the Telling of the Screw one. It's always like, oh, there's a ghost in the corner. Let's look for all the ghosts. But here it was very different. It was like, I kept trying to find ailments and work in reverse. I'm like, that guy in his glasses, but then the next scene, his glasses are off, and he's like, it wasn't too. I don't think there'll be many like the other shows have little YouTube videos of like every single ghost sighting in the entire
Yeah,
show.
yeah,
And there's
there won't be
loads.
any
There
of
won't
that in this.
loads of that in
definitely
this, but it was kind of fun on that level.
not.
Um,
I think this was a message vehicle. It was.
I have some trivia for this. He's basically been working on and off this for like 10, 15 years, the idea of it. And he's sort of seeded it in his other stuff. I think in his film Hush.
Yep.
I don't remember it, but I was just looking at some trivia. Like the two of the characters are talking, and one of them's a writer. And they're talking about Midnight Mass, a book she's written, and about a character who's sort of an alcoholic who's killed someone.
That's clever.
I think a bunch of his films just have these little Midnight Mass winks because he just knew it was going to get made somehow.
Yeah.
And it's something he's been working on and off 10 or so years.
That's to see that that's cool. Yeah, that's very, very cool. To have the
I guess this was his magnum opus.
Yeah, exactly. I remember doing. I want to say something similar, but something similar in. I did a 48-hour film challenge, and during that, the opening sequence of one of those, I panned over a script that I'd written for something called the Time Traveler and the Fisher Boy, which is exactly the same sort of thing, foreshadowing in that. So very cool. Well done, Mike Flanagan. I felt it was a good resolution to the whole series. I was happy with the way it ended. I really liked the fact that the whole island basically went. Everybody, apart from the two kids on the boat at the end. I liked
watching
the
back,
fact
the two kids are the ones that don't do drugs or drink.
When
they're all the way back at the beginning, when the kids run off, he's like, Riley's brother is the only one who's not doing anything. I think there's a sort of, not a wink, but that John Carpenter, back to his early slashers, like Only the Virgin Survives, like the chaste and the good. And in this case, like you said, the girl and Riley's brother are the only survivors.
And I liked the fact that they kind of, like you said at the beginning, they kind of answered the question of whether the main vampire made it to the mainland or not.
They gave a wink.
Yes.
There's a lot of debate.
And it answered your question where you said,
like Dracula rules, basically.
Yeah, the Dracula rules.
If you kill the head one, does everyone go back to normal?
Yes, and that's exactly what they did in that almost final frame.
But do you think it's absolute or it's just a little?
Oh,
wink?
100%. Yeah, definitely.
Ooh, I'm going to take it as a wink.
Why? What? She's no. There would be no reason to deliver that other than to answer that question.
Then why not show it?
Why do you need to show it? That was showing it. It's just showing it it's showing it.
But for a pleasing manner. Otherwise, it's we saw Bev disintegrate. Would you have been disappointed if we didn't see Bev? Someone just went, "No, Bev just spontaneously combusted."
But we've hardly seen or spent any time with the head vampire. He is
true.
On
you think it's missing
time,
that?
it amounts to less than 5. No, not at all. I don't think it was ever about him. I think it was all about everybody else, the islanders and religion. I think he was just not even a vehicle, just a.
I reckon I could have found somewhere to hide out of the sun.
Yeah,
like a blanket, a tarp, like a hole in the ground. I know it's just.
It was great to see Bev trying to dig a hole in the sand at the last minute and save herself from.
Literally watching two Muslims be with God as they're both dying. Like the dad gets shot and is about to die, and have peace with God, and for her to be on her own, literally trying to duck out of a sunrise and literally scrabble in the dirt.
Yeah,
which is like all her undoing, right? Like how fake she was, I suppose, and how it was just all her religious zealotness. That's probably not a word, but you know what I'm trying to say. Was just to give her a place and a bit of power, and it just showed.
It's basically what the speech that Riley's mother gives her on the doorstep when she's trying to get into the house and burn it down and get everybody that's inside it.
Oh, she calls her.
She's just not a very nice person.
Oh yeah,
it's a great little moment.
Yeah, sorry. I watched one little Game of Thrones clip, and I keep getting on YouTube. I'll try this clip, and there's just a clip where is it Honor Blackman? I can't remember, like a very classic actress who's like an old lady, he's talking about someone. She goes, he really is calls him the C word. And it's just quite funny. For some reason, I was in my head just then, I was like, oh my God, did she call Bev the C word? No, she didn't.
It's exactly it.
A godly version.
I thought Bev's comeuppance in the last 2 episodes was well earned and brilliant. She gets shot in one episode, mid-speech, and then she's left scrabbling in the dirt trying to save herself from God. Wonderful.
Do you think her and Pruitt had a good showdown? I'm considering how speech heavy and deep everything's been. I kind of thought it was a little lackluster.
No, I don't think it needed a big heated argument. I think Pruitt was always the greater of the two.
Because he was the true believer.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, kinda. Turns out he was just trying to get laid. Sneaky old dog.
Well, that was a nice little. Actually, that's a good moment. Actually, when with the reveal of is it Sarah, the doctor being his and the other woman's her mother's daughter. That was really nice. That was great. And then she gets shot as well. Oh my God, that moment. That was a gut punch.
Because watching back, there are these
nods.
Yeah, but you think it's because she's gay. You know what I mean? Like there's a scene when they're at the big fair and the dog dies. Like Pruitt's just watching her. And I guess the doctor's on a date at that stage. He's like, oh, don't look now, the priest. And she's like, oh, yeah, the old priest Pruitt used to look like to me like that. I think he always knew I was gay, and it's just his disapproving way. Like he was just always watching me as a kid. Yeah. And then, like when he goes to see her, to see the mother, he's like, Pruitt was really proud of you. I know that you're helping people, and he's very proud of. This is my best Pruitt impression. But you know what I mean? Like it's seeded in. It's frustrating how some stuff, the moment you see it, it's suddenly really obvious. Yeah. Like, God, I didn't think that was hidden. The cleverness
of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful moment. So suddenly I can imagine they take on they're like nuggets of beauty that you get to appreciate the second time round where you wouldn't do the first time round. You get to appreciate them in a very different aura almost. And it must be quite cool.
I didn't quite realize she spat out the blood on purpose. I thought she was just dying and it was too late.
She didn't want to say. She didn't want to turn.
I guess I just sort of lost that on the first view, and I just thought it was just too late. She was just couldn't swallow
got rid of it. So where do you stand on the series as a whole now, having watched it twice and being on the fence the first time round, very much on the fence and sort of pooing it? You literally say poo. I think in one of our casts.
As a podcast, it felt like it was one of the harder things you've had to sort of podcast review because it's so quiet and it's so most points he just makes really well. So it's like me going, oh yeah, but basically he summed it all up in the show, and I kind of whether I agree or not, he made such a good point. There's nothing I can add to it. And I don't know, it's very po-faced and serious. And there's sort of not too much to make fun of. So it's been a hard podcast to do. I kind of like the show. Like I think I said last week, like it took me a long time to sort of gather its speed. And I feel like, end of last episode, I was like, I was saying, how the hell are they going to defeat the big bad vampire? Like they don't have a plan. Nothing's really, but after watching it all kind of fit in that it wasn't really about that sort of big planning and picturing. Like it was always going to be fairly low key. It was always going to be like a as it were, an in the moment thing, or a very simple plan. Like let's just burn them down. Yeah, they weren't even smart. Like why did the sheriff flipping like, mate, you want to go out the back window or something? He was literally sneaking around the front. A
lot of their comeuppance was their own undoing in a way.
They went very Noah's Ark with it, and then sunk the ark.
With burning everything down, and
it was a bit stupid. Like give it a few days at least to know. But I guess that's the whole thing about being caught up in it, right?
Yeah.
There's this guy on YouTube called Acolytes of Horror.
Yeah.
And I think he did a really good review of Midsummer.
Oh, okay, yes.
Because he's
talking that. We have done that, haven't we?
We've talked about it at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But he was saying like that envelopment and hype you feel he's like, he said, I've felt that before. So he really appreciated that film because he was saying, as a kid, he would basically go to like Christian camps.
Mm.
And he says, I'm going to sort of sum it up, and I probably won't do it well, but check it out. It's called like Acolytes of Horror. And he was just saying, like, there's just this way of sort of like overtiring you and overexciting you, and just like slamming the best of religion and Christianity and Jesus. And he's like, you know, you feel touched by God. As a kid, I honestly felt I could see and feel God. But you basically go home and you're high as hell for about a week.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're drained because you've basically been running on like zero energy on high altitude. It's like you're in this state. Some years ago,
That's exactly what I was saying about the drugs.
Mm,
You get the extreme highs, and then you get the extreme guilt.
right,
Extreme
basically have a
lulls.
come down
Yeah.
of the hangover. Because some years ago, I was tempted to go see like Anthony Robbins. He was like a sort of, you know, Anthony Robbins, like a sort of,
No.
like a, not a guru, but like a believe in yourself. Like, what do you want to do? You want the best. You want to get the best out of you, like a motivational guy, right?
Yeah.
But it was expensive, and it was like because it wasn't him. It was like 7 or 8 speakers. So I was like, and it wasn't actually clear if Anthony Robbins was going to be there. And in the end, I was like, you know what, this is so much money. And the more I looked into it, people were saying like, it's not that these things are a con, but they're not quite as simple as they seem. Very much like I was saying, that Acolytes guy was saying, like, they will often get you there at like 7 a.m, but they probably won't start till like 9, 10. They will just get you kind of tired, kind of out of your mind, kind of at a weakened state, as it were, to buy into it. And the more reviews, it's not that I'm anti these motivational things. It was just like, have tricks to get you susceptible.
Yeah. Yes.
That you come out with this high.
Yeah, that's exactly what religion is. No, it's not exactly what religion is. But
yeah, I mean,
it is. It's when you think about you go first thing in the morning to church, you go late the last thing at night, midnight mass, all of those sorts of things. They're all at hours of where you're most susceptible. You're either really bloody tired or really bloody tired. And then they bombard you with this grandiose speech, and there's a guy on a plinth that's delivering and from a stage, and it's all, we go to a theatre to be entertained.
But I feel like this is trying to get into the extreme of one side, to be fair. Like everyone religious I know, you know what I mean, gets on with life, and they basically talk about it as like a comfort rather than like a religion thing. What was your sweetest moment of the show? Oh, sorry, go.
No. You carry on. Yeah, my sweetest moment. So in essence, what did I enjoy the most? Or
like for me, when Riley's parents found each other as vampires, and just everything with them together at the end was just heartbreakingly sweet, and it was probably my favorite moments of the entire show. Just to have that couple as they started off come to this end, singing that song from like when the Titanic sunk.
No, I think they were.
Cool.
Yeah, it was a very lovely moment. I think they probably took the best of what was offered to them from the blood, because it enabled them to go back to a point in their existence together.
Do you think
that they kind of lost? I think, although it still existed, it was inhibited by age and happenstance, I guess. What kind of the blood that they were consuming kind of washed a bit of that away and enabled them to get back to and capture a bit of their youth. For me, I did really like, for all of its harrowingness, the boat, Riley's resolution. I thought that was really good, because I felt like I said in the episode that it happened, he got to take hold of and take control of everything that had happened to him, or that he enabled or let happen to him. And he kind of just been meandering through life, reacting to things. And this was his first, no, this is what I want. This is how I'm going to go out, and I'm going to do it all now.
I guess it reminded me of the documentary. Is it The Falling Man? And it was one of the. I think it was a short, but it was like the guy who jumped from the towers on September 11th,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just like this guy. The kind of moral of it was sort of like this guy wasn't a suicider. He was just taking control of his life,
Mm-hmm.
and he was just, you know what I mean, like he was going out, as it were, in his way.
Yeah. It's exactly the same thing, I think, in a way. Yeah, owning it.
Of the 3 Flanagan shows, where are you rating this one?
Oof. Where am I rating this one? I think Haunting of Hill House is first. Midnight Mass.
Do you think there was no
Blythe
expectations
Manor.
on that one?
On Haunting of Hill? Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think that was the bar setter. Maybe with Blythe Manor and Haunting, that those are within the same sort of, they were sequels to each other in essence. So you can compare them, but Midnight Mass I don't feel has got anything to do with those two.
Oh no, I kind of feel like it's in his trilogy of
no,
like it felt very his style. A lot of seeding, a lot of look in the background for this, a lot of foreshadowing.
Well, no. So you say the look in the background, but there was no look in the background, was there really? Like there was some foreshadowing, but there was no. Like, when I say look in the background, look for the ghosts.
I mean, a couple, but not many. A lot of vampire back in the early days. A lot of vampire eyes. Not a lot. But
like
a couple
there was
of vampire
one episode
eyes.
on the island in the bushes, maybe.
There's a lot of window
there was
creeping.
out the window.
I get the interesting thing watching back was the window creeper the vampire or Pruitt? Or I guess both, because when the old lady sort of has dementia, she's like, "Oh, I thought I saw Pruitt at the window."
Yes, yeah.
A lot of that.
No, that's a good point, actually. Yeah. No, because the eyes, everybody had the eyes once they turned, didn't they? And whereas in those early days, we just thought it was the vampire. So it probably was Pruitt.
Problem with Blythe Manor, and I didn't hate it at all, Blythe Manor. It just was like you're just trying to capture the same magic, and you're just doing the same thing, like the same template. You're just
It's a lot slower than Haunting. Blythe Manor was.
I feel like I want to watch Haunting again. Like my friend calls it like the Sherlock effect. Like the last 2 seasons of Sherlock, everyone was like, "This is why can't it be good again?" And he's just like, "Look, Sherlock was never that good. It's just become hyped. It was really enjoyable and fun to watch, but somehow it's been elevated to like the best television ever with this diehard audience."
Yeah.
But as good as it is, it's not quite the greatness everyone talks about, but people have that feeling and memory of it being that great. And that's kind of how I feel about. I really like Haunting of Hill House, mostly because it was a surprise.
Yeah, well, that's what it is. It's a surprise. That's why it works. That's why Sherlock worked. It's because the first time you watch it, it's a surprise. Everything that happens is a surprise. You're not used to it. You haven't seen the characters before portrayed like this before. You haven't seen this type of narrative, this delivery of this story. It's all new. Everything after that, you're chasing the high. To go back to the drug relay,
I think you did better characters in Hill House, though.
Yep.
Because I think there was just a range. I guess when I look back over Midnight Mass, it's like you're all kind of a different version of sort of their self. You know what I mean? Not of their self. Like they're all from the same island, but
that's the thing. The key to it. I think
massive
they're all going to be very
variation
similar.
of the characters, right?
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's deliberate. And I think that's deliberate because it is. They're all from the same island. They're all going through the same thing. They're all subjected to the very similar days. It's not like one person's going to an office building and one person's going to a bakery. They're existing on an island of a population of 200 people and doing hardly anything. So I think they're all going to be very, very similar. But Blythe Manor and Haunting of House are two very different, but they're both ghost stories. And I think that's you can compare the two, and Haunting is better
and obvious to compare them.
Whereas Midnight Mass is a separate entity to all of them because that's a creature feature, Midnight Mass. Whereas, and then
he's doing another adaptation. I forgot what it is now.
Yes, children's horror series, if I remember rightly.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I just sort of I've never heard of it, and I saw it on the like random trivia stuff, and then I looked at it. I was interesting. I think it's
teen
like
horror.
A hospital, and it's like something along the lines of like kids in a cancer ward meet at midnight to tell each other scary stories.
Yeah,
something along those lines, I guess.
That's my understanding of it as well. Very so yeah, there we go.
Hey, listener, like and subscribe. It's a small thing for you, but it means something to us. What did you think of Midnight Mass? It's just too early. Sorry, do you have more thoughts?
No, I'm done.
Should I cut you off?
No, no, good.
All my notes are just circling back. I don't think we need them.
No, I think we covered it pretty well. We don't need to go into the individual beats of this because it's the kind of penultimate, so we'll leave some surprises for those that are listening to this first and then maybe thinking about whether they want to watch it or not. Well, I would you recommend it? There you go. There's the final question to somebody that's just stumbled across our podcast and made it all the way to the end. Would you tell them now to go back and watch
it? Very unique setup. Hey, if you're that person who's listened to this and you haven't watched it, shoot us a message. I'd love to, I don't know, chat to you. I don't know why.
We'll bring you on.
Yeah, I mean, if we made it this far on children and I said you should watch it purely for discussion, then you got to watch Midnight Mass. I think, like you've said before, watching it over a period of about 4 months, hasn't helped. But that's our fault, I suppose. That's just circumstances and the logistics of trying to do a podcast episode by episode where we live 2 different lives across the Atlantic.
Yep.
Let's pick a show that neither of us really care about next time, like on Children's season 2. But now I'm here at the end. I have enjoyed it. I think it's some great writing, a little long at times and a little slow, but it's definitely worth a watch just to, I don't know, catch some sort of art house thinking man's horror. Yeah,
I would agree with that sentiment. I feel that it asks a lot of questions about belief and religion and makes people think about things or hopefully makes people think about things in a slightly different way or look at religion in a slightly different way.
I guess I'm thinking people who are like Bev, strongly religious, going to church every day, aren't going to watch Midnight Mass, if I'm honest with you.
Probably not, no.
I don't see them getting up at 9 to go to church on Sunday. Got to pop home and watch Midnight. I've got to watch Mike Flanagan rip into my belief system.
Yeah, exactly.
And a priest go for people's necks. I'm going to give it a B+.
Very nice. I like that.
Something tells me you're going for the A+.
No, I'm gonna go with A-.
Nice. I know. If you've been listening to this podcast for everything, we change the rating system all the time.
Literally, yeah.
But I feel like, I don't know.
Yeah, I would give it an 8 or an A-.
This clears our palate. And I don't think we've got the time to do it right now, but if you're listening, chuck us some shows that could be fun. You didn't do it. You didn't do it with the last one with On Children. Disappointing, listener, but do it after this one. Just hey, this show's kind of fun. I'd like your sort of
take.
Yeah, I was going to say wry, smart take, but then I don't think I use the words wry or smart. So just take. Thank you for listening and sticking with us.
Come again next week when we will be discussing whatever it is you give us. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, we're going to wrap it up around there. I want to thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed. Join us again next episode, and until then, have a great day.
To thee.